Hello, hello. Welcome everybody to episode 310 of Woolen Spinning. My name is Rachel. I live just outside of Vancouver, Canada, and I want to welcome you to this place. I hope that everybody is doing really super well. For those who are local to me here in this part of British Columbia, it is Fibre's West this coming weekend, so some of us are heading there on Friday and Saturday. I hope that I have a chance to say hello if you guys are there. I don't know when I'll be there, if I'll be there on Friday afternoon or Saturday afternoon for just a couple of hours. I'm not totally sure, but if you see me, please come and say hello. I always enjoy meeting people and just getting a chance to say hello. I hope you guys, that this finds you really well. We are having the weirdest weather. It is 0 degrees this morning and it is chilly, chilly, chilly. But over the weekend, we had like sleet, snow, and it was rain, super, super soggy. The kids had a soccer tournament. James played 4 full field 70-minute games. He was exhausted on Sunday night, but he had such a great weekend. And Nora had a little bit of a challenging weekend, a little bit frustrating. I felt really badly for her, but the last game went really well for her, and she felt like she came off the field happy and that she'd had fun in that final game. So that was really good. So we are waiting on rosters for the spring. We just got James's roster. He has been chosen to move up to a different division, which is really, really good. We're really proud of him, and his coach is taking him. So he still has the same coach, which is amazing. So I think he's really happy, and we're just waiting to hear about Nora. So lots going on over here, lots happening. I am wearing my Gentle Morning by Trin Annalie. This is a 3-ply Cheviot Sport that I spun quite a few years ago now. I think it was like 2018. It might have been 2019. It was part of a big study that we did over the course of, I think it was about 6 months. It might have been a bit longer. Knowing how much I put on my plate back then, I suspect that it was the shorter time frame rather than the longer time frame. But this was part of like a yarn consistency, how do you sub yarns sweater study that we did. For anybody who's part of the Patreon community, and you can join at patreon.com/woolenspinning, you have access to all of that content. And this was one of the sweaters that I did for that content, and for how do we sub yarns and how do we go about putting our hand spun into these sweater patterns that, sometimes our hand spun is different. It's not the right stitch gauge. It's not the right row gauge. It maybe has a different feel. What do we do if we need to pivot? All that kind of stuff. So that was part of this. And it's a button-up cardigan. It has a design on the back. Let me go to the other side. It has this design. So I have to say about this sweater, it is one of my most worn favorite things that I have ever made ever. And I wear it and wear it and wear it. So even out of commercial yarns, hand spun yarns, sweaters, shawls, this is by far one of my favorite things I've ever made. And I still wear it a ton, which is really fun. All right. Let's do housekeeping next, and so let's get through, the beginning stuff that we have to do in the show just to keep everybody up to date on everything, and then we can get into the show. So I will see you on the other side of housekeeping. All right. So if you have any questions about anything in the housekeeping video, please let me know. If it goes too fast for you and you need to write some things down, just press pause, go back and press pause. If you're watching this later, you can go through it at your own speed. Let us know, let me know if there's any questions, anything that you want to know more about. Because Europe hasn't had daylight savings just yet, spin group tomorrow night, Thursday morning. They meet Thursday morning. It's still, like, for anybody who joins from North America in the middle of the night, it's still, like, it's all messed up. So make sure you check your time zones for that. I think they switch, am I right, you guys? Do they switch this weekend, Europe? I know I was looking at it, but I'm not totally I can't totally remember. Dion, that's a great question. She said, what makes this sweater your all-time favorite? I think it's the wearability. It is so easy to wear. I can throw it on top of just about everything. And I can just wear it. I don't have to worry about what jeans I'm wearing because it looks good with almost like with all of them. It's just easy to wear. I'm not constantly tugging at it and pulling at it, if that makes sense. The only change that I would do if I were to make this again is I would make this a little bit longer and I would knit it a little bit tighter. I think that's the only thing. I would just, because it always feels like it's a little bit low and it should kind of more be like up here. But as I wear it, it kind of, like raglans do, it kind of, comes down a bit. It's not that it's slouchy, it just doesn't have some of that structure. And I think what I would do, there's two things I would do if I were to do this again. I would knit the collar quite a bit tighter. So I would go down a full needle size or maybe even 1.5 needle sizes, and I would knit it quite a bit tighter. And then I think that I would cast on here, and then I would pick up stitches and knit up to give this, to give the collar and the neck more structure. When you pick up stitches off of a cast on, you just give the sweater a little bit more strength, a little bit more structure. It doesn't get so stretched out. It would keep its shape a little bit better. We'll talk about that when we talk about my pink velvet, which is behind me on my Diana. And I think that those two changes, and I would make this longer so that if it was a bit stiffer and it stood up a little bit nicer, a little bit more firmly, knit on slightly smaller needles so the neck would be a little bit more cinched in, a little bit tighter, a little bit more like a turtleneck. Not tight, but you know what I mean. Excuse me. I think I would just, those two changes, I think that's the only thing that I would do. Everything else about the sweater, easy peasy lemon squeezy. It's just so easy to wear. Yeah, so thank you for asking. Great question. The color is so neutral. That's definitely part of it, Dion. I wear a very neutral wardrobe for sure. Yeah, and I think that because of that, it goes with everything. So definitely the color. This was dyed by Katrina of Crafty Jack's boutique, craftyjacks.ca, and she did basically like a wash on the yarn. It was a white cheviot. It was white. And the wash that she did on it is sort of a bluey gray. But it's interesting because as I've had this over the, like, I think this is at least 6 or 7 years old, at least. Because I had made it before my dad died. Yeah, it's at least 7 or 8 years old. Anyhow, it's faded a little bit. It was always really neutral, and it was always sort of this bluey gray, very neutral, but it's even faded a bit since then. I've washed it a couple of times and all that kind of stuff. Oh, thank you, Nicole and Christine. It changes on the 30th. Thank you, you guys. So yeah, so this week and next week, the Thursday morning spin group will still be on Greenwich Mean Time, and then April 3rd, it'll switch to daylight savings time, and I'll update the housekeeping post because North America is already on daylight savings. And actually, I'm not sure about some of the time zones in Asia and Australia, because I know that they switch at different times as well. So like New South Wales and some of those time zones, I need to look at that. I'm getting better about time zones, but it's hard. Yeah. All right. I wanted to mention quickly about Woolen Spinning Radio. The new episode for March is out. Rebecca and I had a lot of fun with this one. We talked about imaginary inspirational yarns and garments. So things that we would make if time was absolutely no issue and we could do whatever we wanted in terms of like, just throwing caution to the wind and making something. And some would argue that we should be doing that anyways. But I think we tried to come at it from the aspect of like, there's things that we want to make and there's things in our queue that we're working our way through. But if time was no issue, energy was no issue, stash and cost was no issue, just go to town with imagining what maybe you would want to do and want to make. We had a lot of fun recording the episode, and I hope you guys enjoyed listening. You can find that anywhere that you listen to your audio podcasts. And thank you to those who've left reviews. It really helps the show get found and get other makers to find it, because we do talk about hand spinning a lot, but we also talk just about making in general, and so hopefully other people will find it useful in their journey as well. I had mentioned last episode, and it was in the housekeeping post, starting April 1st, the show, both the podcast, so this, and the Wool Circle will be shifting to 12 noon Pacific. So the live stream will be at 12 noon, and the Wool Circle will be at 12 noon. I'm not totally sure on Tuesdays how that will affect Spin Group. I don't know if Glenda will maybe shift to 9 a.m. or even 10 a.m. to start spinners, or if we'll just sort of, whenever you want to join, you can join, and the room will be open all morning. But everything will be shifting to 12 noon. And that's just to accommodate what's going on with me. You can go back to episode 309 to have an update from me about what's going on. If we move to 12 noon, I think that there will be very little schedule interruptions and changes. And if Rebecca needs to step in, then she obviously will if she can. But we're going to try that for at least the month of April, and we may leave the Wool Circle at 12 noon. It works better for me to have the live stream at 10 a.m. Pacific because of the kids' school schedules and whatnot. But it used to be at 12 noon on Wednesdays. So we're just going to see how it goes through April, and I would love feedback from you guys through the month about how it works for you. My concern is the later that we make it in the day, the more difficult it is for Europe. But then the later we make it in the day, the more easy it is for Australia, New Zealand, Asia to join. So we're sort of trying to find that balance for time zones, but also for schedule interruptions and keeping everything really smooth. So thank you for listening to all of that. Know that we're trying our best with trying to figure out where to put things. And let us know if there's, as we shift to the new time, to the 12 noon, let us know, how it works for you and whether or not it's working. I really appreciate that. So without further ado, let's get into the show. And I have a couple of finished yarns to chat with you about. And with this finished yarn here is some fiber prep and some things that I'm thinking about and working on slowly in the background, just very quietly. So yeah, let's get into it. All right. So I have quite a few things to share with you today that are really great things, really happy things that I've been working on. I want to get to the finished yarns because I'm excited to share with you the finished trifecta because I'm quite pleased with how it came out. But I thought where we would start, and I don't have a little jingle for it, is just a really quick chit chat very quickly. I washed some fleece this week, and I don't love washing at this time of year because our house tends to be a bit cold. It's very, very damp in this area of the world where I live. And we do have humidifiers in our crawl space that run, and we have a couple of HEPA type filters that run in our house for the cotton dust that comes off of my looms and just makes a big air purifier kind of a guy. He did a lot of research on it quite a number of years ago, and we've always kind of had them in the house, and then we've recently added a couple of more because we've just noticed that the cotton, spinning the cotton and then weaving cotton, there just is a certain amount of particulate in the air that's nice to just get it sucked out, and it does help with dehumidification as well, because we do have a moisture problem in our house a little bit, and it's something that Mike's always kind of got his eye on. He's always sort of aware of. So I don't love washing fleece at this time of year for that reason, because I find that stuff just doesn't dry really super quickly. But my dear friend Jenny in Hamilton, Ontario sent me a few fleeces to help me out with one of the articles that I'm doing for Weft magazine. And we had talked about sharing some fleeces and whatnot, because we both sort of have a little bit too much of one particular fleece. Like, you know, I have a little bit too much Dorset right now. She's got a little bit too much Cheviot, a little bit too much Romney. I've got a little bit too much Rambouillet. I mean, these are like really wonderful problems to have, don't get me wrong. So we've started sending fleece back and forth and swapping a little bit, because what her local fiber shed can get and what my local fiber shed can get are two very different things. Anyhow, one of the fleeces that she sent me, she had played around back in the summer with a suint wash. And she had said to me at the time that the Romney didn't come out exactly how she was hoping. And she felt like it probably needed a proper scour. Just one, you know, maybe with 2 tablespoons of Unicorn Power Scour. It probably wouldn't need more than that. And that would just really clean it up. Just that last little bit that she felt that the suint hadn't quite gotten. So this is a Romney from Twin Oaks in Ontario. And look at this. And so I washed it this week, and it came out beautifully. It's white, 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 and smooth and lustrous. Makes me think of Alberto because of his Romney forays over the last couple of years. It's hard to show you guys this on the camera without getting my hands in the way. The tips are still a teeny tiny bit dirty. They're not even really dirty exactly. They're just kind of typical of like long wools. They're just kind of a bit tippy. So if I open that up slightly, I can do one of two things. I can lock pop this and just open it up completely, and all of that little bit of trash that's left, that'll all come off by lock popping. And then the butts here where the cut end is, I can just pull this apart slightly, just open it up a little bit like that. Let's see if I can get the camera to focus on my hands rather than my face. And again, I can just throw that through the lock pop and it'll open up right away. Or I can pick it open by hand. So probably what I'll do, there's a second cut there on top of the bag. Just take that out right away. So what I'll probably do is, I'm finding that certain fleeces are way faster to pick open just by hand, because I can just get my nails in there and I can just pull the cut end open, pull the tips open, and I'm done. And then other fleeces, I'm finding the lock pop is faster. It just kind of depends on the fleece and what the lock looks like and what the lock structure is. These long wools, sometimes they're quite curly, quite twisty, and they can take longer to pick open by hand. But I find that if you just open them a little bit, just pull on them just a little bit so that they kind of end up looking like loose curls. I always think of doll's hair. Loose curls like that, then you can put it through the lock pop and it's done in just a couple of bang bang pull, and it's done. So I'll play with this summer. This is going to be one of my reward projects when I'm finished a couple of the things that I'm working on right now. But it's all clean, it's dry. I took, because it was a pound, Jenny was very generous when she sent this one to me and sent me a pound. I think what I'm going to do is work my way through all of the fiber prep for the entire pound, and then I can have a whole bunch of prepped fleece for this summer to spin. I'll either take it with us when we go camping. We're going to go up to Jasper in Alberta this summer for 7 or 8 days. I'll take it with me and maybe take my e-spinner and have something to look forward to spinning. But I'm excited to, I really love spinning, you know, staple length sort of around between 4 and 5.5 inches. I find those spins go really, really, really fast. And this is a 4.5 inch staple. And I just, for whatever reason, they just go like that. I think because your hands are further apart, you're just spin, 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 wind on, spin, 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 wind on. It's just a really fast project for me, and kind of a nice win. So I know Alberto, he says it was almost 2 years ago since he did that big Romney spin, but it's funny, I feel like you were working on it last month, and I know that you weren't. You've done so much since then, and you've had all these other projects that you've been working on, but it's funny how, like, I just have it in my head that Romney, you did it recently. And we all have this joke now about Romney, but like the reality is it's a wonderful wool. It's fantastic for many, many different things. One of my most favorite hand spun sweaters is a Romney Mohair blend that I spun. There was a Disdarrow Ranch in Kamloops, British Columbia, here in Canada. And it's one of my favorite sweaters, even to this day. And this actually, because it's such a beautiful white Romney, I might actually throw a little bit of alpaca into it. I've got some white alpaca in my stash, and I'll just weigh out the amount of, it's not very much that's left. I think it's only like maybe 75 grams that's left, and I'll take all of the 75 grams and I'll distribute it evenly through the entire pound as I'm carding it and making it, and just do a really beautiful blend. So yeah, now it's Dion that's on a forever Romney spin. She's been working on this Romney for quite a while. I was going to say about the wool washing, Tessa, you totally helped me to remember, because you said about the dehumidifier, and it's a game changer for the West Coast. I totally agree. Putting that into our crawl space has made a huge difference. What I do, so what I did with this Romney, and I do this pretty much for all of my fleece washing now. So for anybody who sort of has a front loading washer, even if you have a top loader, although they're becoming more and more uncommon, my mom can do this in her washer as well. So I shouldn't say just a front loader. You can do this in any. But what really works well for me, I do the scour. So in this case, I knew I wasn't going to do a second scour, but I put 2 tablespoons of power scour in the water, and I used our tap water, which is 140 Fahrenheit, which is totally fine for this type of a wash, where I know I'm not worried about getting, it's not a really dirty ram's fleece. It's not a really greasy fleece. This just needed one more scour. It probably actually could have even done with just like Dawn. Like it was very, very, very clean already. And I maybe could have gotten away with 1 tablespoon of power scour, but I honestly just didn't want to, I figured if I put in the 2 tablespoons, I knew it would be clean and it wouldn't need a second wash. But if I did 1, I maybe would have had to do a second. Do you know what I mean? And 1 tablespoon of power scour versus 2, it's not a big deal. Anyhow, I did that, and then I did 2 rinses. And then from there, I took it was all in a mesh bag. And so from there, I took that mesh bag, threw it in a laundry hamper so that I could carry it through the house, so there wasn't dripping fleece everywhere as I carried it downstairs, because our washing machine is downstairs, which is annoying. And then I throw it into my spin cycle. It takes it's a 8-minute cycle on our front loading washer. We have a Miele, and it spins the fleece for 8 minutes. And that is a game changer for me to be able to wash fleece in the winter, because then it really does get so much of that excess water out, and I'm not putting the fleece out, having to roll it in a towel, trying to get it somewhat dry, throw it in the spin cycle. I do it with my yarns now too, and it just gets a lot of that excess water and moisture out of it. And then when I lay it out on a towel, it's actually already like, 50% of the way there. So I do use the spin cycle for pretty much everything now. And I'm looking forward to the summer when I don't need to do that. But right now at this time of year, with how moist it is here, I have to. All right. Let's talk about some of these finished yarns next. And I'm excited to share that, the trifecta with you. Okay, let's talk about my trifecta. So I actually have some photos to share with you here. So this is my colorway that Sweet Georgia developed from some of my photos, and they chose one photo in particular, and then they used that to pull the colors out of it. So this, I've talked about this before on the show. This is out at my in-laws in rural Ontario, northern Canada. And they're about 3 hours northeast of Toronto, for those who kind of know the GTA and sort of that part of Ontario. And they're located in an area where it's 6 and 1/2 does the other for us to fly into Toronto versus Ottawa. It's actually the same amount of time for us to get from either airport. But from Toronto, we can take the Via. So it makes more sense, which is a train for those who don't know. So it's easy for us to just take the train out there, and then they come and pick us up at the train station. So they're in quite a rural area. They're in an area that's unincorporated. It's not it's not an actual municipality, but they do have neighbors, and there are other people that live in the area. There's a few farms. This land, the type of land in this particular area that they live is for the most part not arable, and it's not particularly farmable. So a lot of people have livestock, or they have sort of a veggie, sort of a big plot for vegetables, and then they sell their vegetables at market and at farmers markets and whatnot. So a little bit more of like, I hate using the term hobby farm, but more of a small scale farming, sort of a side hustle type situation is what most of their neighbors do. And this particular, and then so when they bought the property, there were a few different areas of the land that was already somewhat cleared. And so my father-in-law runs a Christmas tree farm, and there's these different fields. And this particular field where this particular photo was taken is called Wesley's Field, and that's my nephew. And he's the youngest of the 4 cousins and of the 4 grandchildren of my in-laws. And so there's 4 fields, and each of the kids have a field. So there's James Field, Nora Field, Alice Field, and Wesley's Field. So the colorway is called Wesley's Field because of my nephew. So I think I mentioned that on the podcast before, but it's always fun to wax poetic and to share a little bit with you guys about my extended family and people that, you know, influence me and my family on a you know, daily, yearly, monthly basis, people that we're involved with and you know, that we care very much about. So this blend, I chose to have mine done on Trifecta. When they asked me which of the bases I wanted to spin and wanted to play around with, I said, you know, I'd love to try the new one, the Trifecta. I think Diana did the same thing. So it's Mohair, BFL Mohair Silk, 75, 15, 10% silk. So 75% BFL. So I started playing around with this almost right away, mostly because I was really looking forward to playing with a new base, and it really worked well with our breed blends and color study that we're doing right now, because it's BFL Wensleydale Mohair. So it's going to be really fun for me to sort of compare the two and look at the two. So what I ended up doing was I took the braid and I literally sat down and just started spinning it. I didn't try to divide it up. I didn't try to play with the colors. I just didn't, to be honest with you, I didn't have the bandwidth. I just wanted to sit down and spin something and enjoy it. And so I spun it end to end, and then about 3/4 of the way through, it was right before we went to the UK and had our big trip, I kind of found myself thinking like, okay, it was great that I just sat down and started spinning, and that's totally fine. But am I going to do a 3-ply or am I going to do a 4-ply? Because I always wanted to do a multiply with this particular base because I wanted to see how it was going to act. Not because I wanted to do socks. There's not going to be enough yardage for that, but I knew that I wanted a multiply yarn. I would love to see this in the yoke of a sweater. I think this would be really, really pretty for just a low contrast, really beautiful yoke. And the colors actually matched up quite well in plying, as you can see from this photo. So I did ply back tests of the 3-ply and the 4-ply, and I showed them to Nora, and she was so sweet. She's like, well, they're nice. I was like, uh-oh. So I'll go to the big camera. It's going to be really hard for you guys to see this, so just bear with me here. But this bottom one is the 4-ply ply back test, and this one is the 3-ply ply back test. The twist angle on the 3-ply was a little bit more relaxed, and the 4-ply twist angle was a little bit tighter because I added a little bit more twist to allow the 4-ply to actually ply back on itself properly, so that it looked like, so that it snapped into place and looked like yarn. Because I find if you don't add enough twist and you try to do those multiply ply back tests, they just don't work. So it might not be exactly like what the finished yarn is going to look like, but it gives you a really good idea. And basically what ended up happening was this is a 9 wraps per inch yarn and this is a 14 wraps per inch yarn. So sport weight versus worsted weight. So there's quite a big difference. And this yarn, and I think it's the Mohair, it feels quite firm, not in a stiff or it's not rigid or stiff or anything like that. It just feels like it's got a lot of substance to it. It just felt heavier. And this one felt lighter. It felt a little bit more, a little bit finer. It just didn't feel as heavy. And so right away, I knew that I wasn't going to go with the 4-ply, that I was going to do the 3-ply. And actually, the only reason why I didn't do a 2-ply and I didn't just do a center pull ball was I didn't want the yarn to be super fine. And then I've got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of yards of 2-ply to use up. It felt less daunting to have less yardage and have a 3-ply. Does that make sense? When I feel a bit overwhelmed and I feel a bit, yeah, overwhelmed is probably the best word. And I'm kind of looking at my making going, oh goodness gracious, this is making a lot more work for me. I often will make decisions around plying that will give me a little bit less yardage. So I'll go with like a 3-ply or a 4-ply because it feels less daunting to use that much yarn up versus like 700 or 800 yards of 2-ply, really super fine lace weight 2-ply. So that's what I did. I did a 3-ply. So going back to this for a minute, I'll play through the photos for you. So in the end, I think I've ended up with about 300 yards of heavy sport light DK. It's very consistent. It's very even. The way that I did, okay, let's talk about this. I'm going to pause it here. One of the things when I was plying was I was looking for quite a firm twist angle because based on my experience with sampling our Brie Blends and Color Study yarns, I knew that quite a bit of the twist was going to dissipate in the wash. So I knew that my twist angle, if it was quite tight in the plying, I knew that it would relax a little bit in the washing and that everything would just, that the yarn would just chill and it would just, you know, a lot of that extra twist would dissipate in the washing. And that's exactly what happened. So when I washed this, the yarn twisted back on itself 4 times. It was like this when it came off of the Nitty Naughty or my skein winder. And post washing, it is perfectly balanced. So I did put quite a lot of twist in it. Like I said, it twisted back on itself 4 times and now it's perfectly balanced post washing. So when you're spinning some of these blends like the Brie Blends and Color Study, you know, if you have an opportunity to spin some of this Trifecta from Sweet Georgia Yarns, and if you're looking for Canadian businesses to support, Sweet Georgia is based here in Vancouver in Canada. These yarns, you can get away with putting quite a bit of twist in because a lot of it is lost in the washing and they come out just beautiful. And because of the mohair, they're a little bit heavier, and because of the long wool, they're a little bit heavier. But in general, they come out really, really beautiful and really lovely with that sheen from the silk and the mohair and the BFL. I mean, you just have so many wonderful qualities from those different fibers. Now, what I wanted to say about the singles was, so I told you guys that I spun it end to end. So this is where it gets really interesting. So just bear with me for a minute. I spun the singles end to end. So I had one bobbin at the end of the singles and they were all on one bobbin because I had spun the braid end to end. I didn't pre-draft, I didn't strip it down, I didn't do anything. I just sat down and started spinning. Like I said, I needed to not think about it. I needed to just do it. So I had the bobbin full of singles. And so when I decided to go with the 3-ply, I was like, okay, well, how am I going to get the singles divided up evenly to have 3 separate bobbins of singles to ply? So what I ended up doing, and just bear with me here for a moment, was I took the singles, I put it through my yardage counter, which is a fishing line counter. I've had it for 10 plus years. And I wound all of the singles onto my skein winder. And I obviously put enough twist into the singles because it only broke once and it was right at the beginning. So I spun through, I wound off the entire bobbin almost, and then it broke right at the beginning. And it's probably because that's when I was kind of sampling and playing around with the yarn, and there's probably a weak spot in the singles right at the beginning there. So I ended up with just over 3,000 feet because my line counter, my yardage counter, it counts in feet, which is kind of annoying, but that's okay. Beggars can't be choosers. So I had 3,000 feet of singles, And so then I wound off 3 weaving bobbins. They're each 1,000 feet each. So I turned the yardage counter around to wind them back through to wind off 3 bobbins like this. And this is actually how I'm going to do the Bramble Ridge yarns that I haven't plied yet. I've only plied 1 of the 3 that I had spun. The other 2, this is what I'm going to do. It worked really, really, really well. And then I plied it up. And that's how I got really, really evenly distributed singles. Wound them through the yardage counter and then back through. And it worked out really well. And I ended up with just over 300 yards of yarn. Perfect. Yeah, those wonderful, cool pastels look so nice with your Gentle Morning. Oh, thank you, Rebecca. I think that would be a wonderful color on you. Thank you. I do like these colors. It's funny, these are all colors that I really, really like, but I don't particularly wear them. I love that salmony pink, that color there in the sky that came through in the yarn. I love that color and I never reach for it, but yeah, I probably should. What yardage and yards per pound did you get in a sport, from a sport in those fibers? So yeah, I got roughly 330 yards roughly from a 115 gram braid. So you guys get to look at pretty pictures. Let's say 320, just to be on the, so my grist was 1,200 yards per pound, 1,260 yards per pound. So yeah, and then I've got Giddy Up, which was Calgary's colorway from Bramble Ridge, and I've got Mushroom Hunt on Hanaway wool. This one is BFL Massam, and this one is Hanaway. And I'll do the same thing with these to get these plied up into a 3-ply as well. So when I have the mental capacity and the space, like the time to do it, I'll get those ones done as well. So that is that. All right, let's talk about my Dorset horn. Okay, so let's talk about the Dorset horn is part of, it's a finished skein and it's a finished skeined object, but it's also part of spinning and fiber prep. So let's talk about fiber prep next, because these all go together and this is all part of that. So let's do that next. I'm sitting here like just cuddling with the yarn. I still feel really tired from last week and the weekend. Like I just feel kind of sleepy. The time change really affected me this time round because we sprung forward, right? And you lose that hour of sleep, and we were already jet lagged from the UK. And there's been a lot going on. And so it just like, I'm like, I'll just have a little nap. Nobody will mind. I'll just cuddle my Dorset. All right. This yarn was a really, really fun surprise for me. So I am going to just put this up for you guys and you can have a look at the photos while I'm chatting. So the locks are quite long on this Dorset. This came from my friend Melissa Goulet of Melly Knits, and it actually came from Sherry Stewart, who is a local to me shepherdess, and she collects fleeces, and she's just up in Maple Ridge. So the show today is very local, which is kind of fun. So this was a horned Dorset, and Sherry Stewart had written on the label of the fleece that Melissa got. She wrote on it underneath in in just a scrawl, exquisite. So when I asked Melissa if she had anything that was a 4.5-inch staple, she was like, well, yes, I do. I have this Dorset horn. And so I sort of said, do you think that, do you have enough to let me have about 100 grams of it? And she said, absolutely. So this is the lock. You can see that the locks are very, they don't look like a, these are, I'm going to talk about these next. They don't look sort of like well-defined locks. They're kind of a little bit fuzzy. They're a little bit, they're blocky, but they're very, very soft. It's just honestly, you guys, this is like air. It's just beautiful. So I have those locks off to the side for a reason. It's because I need them for samples. But this ended up being a really, really, really fast project. So what ended up happening was I got the fleece, I got the 100 grams from Melissa, and I sort of was looking at them, and they're 4.5-inch staple, like I said. And I sort of thought, you know, I can probably lock pop these relatively quickly. So I got out that green bin that you guys saw in the slideshow just now. I got out the green bin, and I sort of thought, you know, I'll just put the locks out on the table and I'll just start lock popping them and I'll see how I do. Well, after 20 minutes, I'd done about half of it because these locks are so beautiful and they're not tangled at all. And they're just like ideal for lock popping because you have lots to hold on to. So you just bang, bang, pull through, bang, bang, pull through, and you're on to the next set of locks. It was really, really, really fast. So I got about halfway through and I sort of thought, okay, I've got all these locks popped and I'll get through the rest of them like relatively quickly, which I did. And then I was looking at what I had and I sort of said to Dion in one of our spin groups, I don't think it was in queries, I think I said it to her in one of the other groups, I was sort of like, I'm not sure what to do next. Like if I should just put them on the carder, it's going to take forever to put them through the carder. You know, it'll probably take 4 or 5 passes. And she's been talking recently, and me and Lisa have started calling it the Deej method, which I think is very appropriate. We've sort of started experiencing this. I'm going to see if I can find it here. So I have all these locks here. This is a different fleece, but let me just see if I can find, maybe I don't have a photo of it. I'll stop here. This is the Romney BFL cross, so not to get everything confused, but basically, I sort of have all these locks and I've got them sort of all organized in these piles like I sort of like to do to keep them relatively organized. And I don't worry about what the tip end is and what the butt end is or anything like that. But it's sort of getting them from that and getting them onto the carder is sort of this step in the process of getting those really beautiful bats off the carder that look like this. Now, where is the photo? There it is. That look like this and come off just so beautifully smooth and well carded and consistent and cohesive, all the buzzwords, right? There just seems to be an amount of energy, an amount of time that taking it from the nice opened locks, whether you've picked them open or you've lock popped them open, to getting these results off the carder. And for me, I either have to put it through the carder 4 or 5 times or use the Deej method. So we're going to do more on this over the next, like through the summer probably, and I'll do some videos on this, and I'm going to talk to Dion and we'll try and have some tips and tricks for you guys and so on if you want to try this. But basically, I've taken the locks from that lock popped sort of stage of the fiber prep process. And what Dion's been doing and what I've started doing is putting them on the blending board next. And so then you kind of create like this bat that comes off of the blending board, and it just gets everything into the format that is a bat. And then from there, putting it through the carder, this Dorset horn only needed to go through the carder because it was such a beautiful fleece. It lock popped open so easily and so quickly. I only had to put it through 1 time on the carder. 1 time. And I had an exquisite bat that came off. And then from there, I created these little nests. And I threw them back into the bucket that the locks had been all lined up in. These are some big plastic shopping bins that we use at one of the local grocery stores. You can get them from them. And they're fairly decent. They're quite a large size. They're actually really great for washing fleece, to be honest. And so when I had the exquisite, this big beautiful bat, I just stripped it down. I didn't even put it through the carder again to make my little nest. Normally I will go that extra step, and the 4th or 5th pass of drum carding is making my little nest. So if I say that I've carded a bat 4 or 5 times. The last pass is always just the little nests of fiber and taking the little nests of fiber off. I didn't even have to do that with this. I actually stripped the bat by hand and pre-drafted each section by hand, threw it in the bin here, and then I weighed them out so that I had 2 equal weight bobbins, so that I had enough for each bobbin to make a 2-ply. So this is the finished yarn here, and like, it is absolutely, not to toot puff too much about this yarn, but I am so proud of this yarn because it is so consistent. It is so even. The twist angle throughout the entire skein is absolutely bang on. It's about 30 degrees, 35 degrees. It is like, again, I'm going to toot puff for a minute here. It is perfect. It is perfect. It's about 400 yards of fingering. And you guys are probably wondering what I'm going to use this for and why I needed this fleece from Melissa. It is for an article for Weft magazine. So the article will be about weaving, but you guys here on the podcast get to hear about the spinning, because that's the part that doesn't really get talked about in the article, because the important part is the weaving for the article. But for us, the important part is the spinning and getting the fiber prep absolutely bang on. And to get that beautiful yarn, the prep had to be bang on. So doing the blending board really made sure that those locks were already into sort of a bat-like form before they went onto the drum carder. This yarn is gorgeous. I put an absolute crap ton of twist in it, excuse my language, and I have my stack of cards here that I'm currently working on. This is my life right now. Yeah, so I have my control card here, and I put, the twist per inch was, the twist angle was 45 degrees in the plied yarn. So fresh off the skein winder, once I had wound it off. The twist angle was 45 degrees. It was 20 wraps per inch with a bit of tension. And then post finishing, the twist angle relaxed to about 35 degrees, and it's about 22-ish wraps per inch post finishing. It's quite fine. So we'll set it at, I'm hoping that I can get a plain weave sample and a twill sample out of this, so I have to reslay for the twill sample, but I'm thinking that I'll probably do a plain weave sample at about 15 ends per inch and do a 50-50 balanced weave. And then the twill sample, I'll tighten up to 18 or 19 ends per inch for the twill. And yeah, I'm excited to do those samples. And then this was my 2-ply sample that was unwashed. That was my initial sample from when I first started spinning. And it's funny because it's quite a bit stiffer. It's got that twist didn't, because it's not washed, it didn't have any of the twist dissipate in the water. So this is quite a bit stiffer. It feels a little bit prickly. It feels a little bit coarser. And this has softened a little bit, and it still has a little bit of a halo, because you just sort of expect that with the downs. They get with a long down like this as well. But it's got luster because of how long the down was. This Dorset horn was just exquisite, like Sherry wrote on the notes. So it'll be interesting to see what this looks like woven up. And I wish I had more of it, but I do have an entire Dorset fleece from Rose Ranch in Prince George in my stash. And it's not long stapled like this was. But it has a bit of a sheen as well. It's a Dorset down versus a Dorset horn. So it'll be interesting to see the difference when that is spun and processed. So because I felt so inspired and I got through that first spin of 3 for the article, I pulled out this Romney, BFLxRomney cross, also from my friend Jenny. And I don't want to pull these locks apart too much, because this is for sending in as the samples to go with the article. But this is what the BFLxRomney cross looks like. This isn't a BFLxRomney blend. This is a BFLxRomney cross. So the sheep is a cross. This is from Twin Oaks in Ontario. And again, you can see beautiful luster, typical, long curly locks from that BFLxRomney, but quite a lot of crimp, more so of what we see in BFL. So I was looking at these locks. It was the right staple length for this project. And I was like, oh, I don't know if I want to get into lock popping these and picking them open, and like, oh my goodness, BFL can be so challenging, blah, 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 blah. Had it all like worked up in my mind. I got it all lock popped in like 4 hours. I had over 100 grams done. And same thing as the Dorset. Made these absolutely beautiful, beautiful bats. I did do the blending board again. And it's funny, the BFLxRomney didn't actually like the blending board as much as the Dorset did. It kind of resisted. It's almost like the locks wanted to stay separate from one another on the blending board versus the Dorset, that they all kind of just went together right away. But even with that, they still only needed to be carded twice on the carder. So I made one big bat, 100 grams, pulled it off, made it and put it through a second time. And again, I didn't have to card it a third time to make my little nests. I was able to just pull them apart and make these absolutely beautiful batlings, nests. I don't know what you want to call them. Little bundles of fiber that I make. I always do this with all of my carded stuff. If you guys have followed me for long enough, you know that I always make these little nests. And beautiful, 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 beautiful. So I actually, because I felt so inspired and it's been going so well, touch wood and blue, find something blue to touch. The first bobbin is done. So this is the BFLxRomney cross. The first set of singles is done. And I'm almost done the second. I've got about 5 nests left to go. And then I'll have the second skein of yarn done. So I actually, if things go according to plan, which probably it won't, because that's just sort of how things have been going lately, but maybe, I might be able to start weaving this weekend, and I maybe could get one set of samples done. Fingers crossed, maybe. I don't want to like set myself up for failure and take on too much, but it would be wonderful if I could. Because now, you know, when you get to the stage in a project where like, now it's like, oh, now I'm into this. Now we're getting there. Like this is good. This is good stuff. And so now I want to get on to the weaving because I want to see the fabric, because ultimately that's what really gets me really excited, is like, I love the fiber prep. I love the spinning. You guys know that I love the spinning. If I didn't love the spinning, we wouldn't still be sitting here having this conversation 10, 15 years later. Like it just wouldn't. I said that to my brother yesterday, actually. If I didn't love what I did and have a passion for this stuff and want to keep learning and want to keep improving my yarns and pushing myself out of my comfort zone, which is why when I start to feel a bit overwhelmed with it, I have to just take a step back and be like, that's okay, just not right now. I'll have the spoons at another day, but not today, kind of thing. I said to him, I wouldn't still be doing the podcast. I wouldn't still be sitting here. I wouldn't still be talking to you guys. We wouldn't still be building the community and welcoming people in. We wouldn't still be having these conversations. We wouldn't be taking photos of our stuff. I wouldn't be checking in with you guys and wanting to continue talking about it. Like I remember my dad said years ago, well, aren't you going to run out of things to talk about? But what's ended up, you guys have come along with me on my journey. Like where I was when I first turned on the camera to now, 11 years later, is very, very different in my journey. And as soon as, and this project's been hanging over me a little bit, in all honesty, because of everything else that's been going on. And it's not just my health, there's other things as well. There's been some challenges for sure, outside of just what's going on with my health. And so I really felt like this project was hanging over me. And now that I'm into it and I'm over halfway when it comes to the spinning, now I can feel myself getting excited. Now I can feel like, okay, I'm starting to see the end in sight in terms of we're getting to the fabric and getting to making the fabric. And that's what I get really excited about. That's one of the reasons why I love this sweater so much. The fabric came out exactly how I envisioned it. And when it comes to weaving, I still don't have, when it comes to weaving with my hand spun, I still don't have that like, oh yes, this is going to weave up exactly like this because of A, B, and C. I can get there with my knitting and with knitted fabric because I've done so much with my hand spun and my knitted fabric. but not so much in the woven. And so I feel myself getting that like excitement about, okay, like, you know, I've got this beautiful yarn, probably one of the most beautiful yarns I've spun to date. And now I get to turn it into fabric and see, let's take it one step further, you know? And I think a couple of years ago, I would have been like, ooh, what if it doesn't turn out? And what if the fabric doesn't work? And what if it wrecks the yarn? And ooh, you know, and I don't feel like that anymore because the washing and scouring, the fiber prep, the spinning, and the plying doesn't feel so daunting anymore because I've got the process down. So, you know, when you're sort of at the beginning of your journey, I know for me, I felt often like, oh, that took a lot of energy. That fiber prep and lock popping, all of that, whew, that was a lot. I don't feel that anymore because I've done it so many times. It's like, oh, it's about how long it takes, and I'm getting a little bit faster every time, but there's going to be a point where you're not going to get any faster. It just takes the time that it takes. And now the time-consuming part of it is always the weaving for me. And so I just mentally have started to get my head around, okay, it's just going to take the time that it's going to take. But I get to look at the fabric after, and that gets me really excited. So, yeah. I know, Diane, I know. When he said that, I was like, you obviously don't know what the fiber art's all about. My dad was also an incredibly quiet person. And so when he did say something, it was usually very profound and very well thought about and blah, blah, blah. And actually in real life, I'm not a super chatterbox. I can get chatterboxy, and I can definitely talk when I want to and when I need to. But at the time, it just made me laugh. Yeah, run out of things to say. So funny. So yeah, and the other thing that's really helped this winter is the chunking. Rebecca has been chunking her project. She's been talking about it quite a lot in the Wool Circle, about where she'll have like a specific goal for the day. And I think because our lifestyles are very different, me and Rebecca, like in some ways where we live and our lifestyles and how our kids are being raised couldn't be more opposite in a lot of ways, just because of where we live and the type of lifestyles that we have. But on the other hand, because we're both trying to do some of the same things, like fitting in our knitting, fitting in our making time, cooking, spinning, getting a certain amount done every day, week, month, chunking some of it and having a certain amount that I want to get done every day or every couple of days has really helped. So I've kind of put my cotton spinning to the side just for these few weeks while I get this done. And then I'll go back to my daily practice of spinning my cotton every day for 30 minutes, because that was really taking off before the UK, and I all of a sudden had about 500 yards of cotton spun. It was like, holy smokes, like how did that happen? But I don't often have that time during the day to sit down for such a big period of time. And even trying to carve out like 15 or 20 minutes can sometimes feel like a bit much, because by the time I sit down and get going, it's like, I have to get up and do something else. And it's just because for a few weeks here, it's just been a little bit hectic, and there's been quite a lot going on, and supporting Nora and trying to help her kind of deal with a few things that have been going on, that were going on before we left for our trip and have continued since we've been back with her soccer team. And it's labor intensive. It takes time, to sit and talk and help them work through their thoughts and feelings and help them to articulate what they're doing. I can't sit there and spin at the same time when I'm doing that with her. It's too intense. So there's been parenting for the last couple weeks has been very intense, and that's okay. That happens. That comes in phases as well. So let's talk about knitting next, because I did want to share with you just a really quick update about my pink velvet, and then I've got some community participation to show you. So let me move Diana closer, and I'll share with you a little bit of progress on that. All right. I love being able to share with you guys the Diana doll, like have Diana model the sweaters for you. It is so much easier to talk about them. Remember in the old days, I used to have to lay it out on the counter and try to talk about it on the counter here next to me. It's so much easier. I was thinking about that the other day. It's so much easier to be here. So see, Diana is modeling my pink velvet, and I had mentioned last episode, I feel like last episode was a really long time ago, but I think it's because we had such a big gap in February. It just feels like we haven't had as many shows. And then I was looking at the calendar and I was like, no, we haven't had as many shows. That's why it feels that way. And thankfully March only has 4 Tuesdays, but then April has 5 Tuesdays. So we're going to end up with that little bit of a gap again. So I always feel like it's a little bit, when we have those little bit of gaps, I'm like, hey, what did I talk about? And where are we at with that project? So I had only gotten to here when we chatted last time, and I'd only just started to build out the body a little bit. I had separated the sleeves and the yoke, but that was kind of where I was at. And I'd only done about this much knitting while we were away. I really didn't knit while we were away. I mentioned on the show last time that I really felt like I needed a break from everything. And so even just the brain capacity needed to even just knit and make something while we were away, I just needed nothing. This is reading on the monitor is quite lime green. I'm looking at the YouTube stream and it looks quite lime green. It's not as vert or like as bright. In real life, it's a little bit more, it's a bit faded. And I think it's just the camera has trouble reading this particular color. The purple, so this is all hand dyed. This is Dorset as well, which is kind of funny. This is a Dorset fleece that I split with my friend Diana. And the body here, I have knit all in the last week. And I've just been kind of forcing myself to pull it out and work on it. And it's not actually because I've been really enjoying knitting that much. It's actually because I'm really enjoying working on this particular project. I don't have a spindle project on the spindles at the moment. And I just kind of thought, you know, I'm just going to sit and work on my knitting when I can. And so I have been, and I've gotten quite a bit of it done. The body is a little bit baggy. It's a little bit bigger than my original one, but I know that from experience with my first one, the reason why I'm remaking it is because my first one has a lot of holes in it. That's my other most favorite sweater of all time. And I'm doing different colors this time round. But the colors of my other one, it's kind of a corally orange with a dark blue yoke. I loved that combination of colors. But I decided to do something different this time around. So this is a 3-ply hand spun. This Dorset is some of my other most favorite yarn that I've ever spun ever. And I dyed all of the yarn this green color. I think I talked about this on the last show, so I'll be really quick. I dyed all of it this color, but then I took just the yardage that I needed for the color work. And I used burnt orange. I think it was called Russet. And I only dyed the yardage, over-dyed the yardage that I needed for the yoke. And I felt like that would probably help the two colors coordinate a bit better, because the top, the sort of the wash, if you will, on top of the green, it would still like look like it went together. And I think it came out quite well. I think it worked quite well. Dion gave me some tips and tricks and stuff, and that really helped. It helped my confidence of like going through with it, because I was really torn about dyeing the Dorset because I loved that yarn so much. So I'm not exactly sure how long this is. It's about 7 inches. So I have another few inches to go, and then I'll do the ribbing. It should finish up to be about here, I think, when all is said and done. I don't have a ton of yardage. I should have had enough for the entire sweater, but I don't think that I do, even though I had more than enough. But I have enough to finish the body, and I have enough to do the bottom ribbing, and then I'll probably end up doing short sleeves. The sleeves will probably be like 5 inches maybe, to give me like a really nice cap, and then ribbing. And it'll become a good sweater for that transition between winter and summer. Before we get into some of the warmer weather that we sometimes get in June, usually not a ton, and then again in the fall, when you're sort of kind of like my ranunculus, I did with short sleeves as well. It'll kind of give me a couple of sweaters that are short sleeves. Also this one that I did, it's a Sorry Nordland, I can't remember what this one was called, I just finished it. Same thing, it'll kind of give me a few transition pieces that I feel like I actually need. I think I will wear these more than I wear some of my like big heavy winter sweaters. I just don't pull them out. They're too warm for our climate. So This is all being held on needles right now. I did pick up and knit the top ribbing for the yoke, for the ribbing up here for the neck. Thank you. I was like, what is that body part called? For the neck, I just need to do a tubular cast off, and I just haven't done it yet. So I left it held on needles for now so that I could show you guys what the sweater looks like and where I'm at. So a little bit baggier than my other one, but I think it'll be fine. I think it'll be good. Yeah. Christine says I have so many sweaters I want to knit. I get it. I get it. Yeah. It's hard. There's so many great sweater patterns out there. There's so many garments and there's so many shawls, and oh, it's just, you know, it's just awesome. I was even talking to, I think it was Greta that I was chatting about with the Trifecta, doing a crocheted shawl with it, or even like there's a couple of shawl patterns that would work where you have this as the contrast and have more of like, because it's a 3-ply, so it's a little bit more substantial than a 2-ply yarn. And you could, you know, something like Sparks of Gray by Melanie Berg. When I've already knit that pattern, but I would absolutely knit it again, where you've got a contrast against this, and then you've got this beautiful triangular shawl. There's so many patterns out there like that. That would work, and there's so many talented designers, which you guys know. There's too many things to make, too many things. I even thought about casting on a pair of socks this past week. Like, that is how, like, it's just too much to make right now. I do have a plan for my Brie Blends and Color Study. I know exactly what I'm going to do with it. So there is that. There is that. Yeah. Oh, Rebecca, you know what? I missed your comment. I feel like I've been talking a lot today and not looking at chat, but she says, my kids have been in school for a total of 3 days so far this month. Of course, it's because Rebecca, they've had blizzard after blizzard after blizzard. We're in the same boat. My kids had 4 days this month, and now we're on spring break, and it's just the way that their school program is, and it's just the way that the school calendar falls. But it's like, oh my goodness, you guys, I need you to be somewhere else for a little bit. I need you to go and do something else, not be on top of me every 5 minutes. It's hard. Yeah, the parenting thing doesn't end. 25-year-old daughter is having to deal with a fallout from everything going on regarding her research, her PhD research. Yeah, it's hard, right, Christine? Like, it doesn't stop. My brother and I were talking yesterday. I'm going to wax poetic for a minute here before we go into community participation. My brother and I were chatting yesterday, and he does not love home ownership. He doesn't like having a yard. He doesn't like having a house to have to look after. Him and my sister-in-law are counting the days until they can sell the house when they don't have to have a yard. And they want to eventually get a townhouse. And then all of the maintenance outside is taken care of. Like, they just don't like home ownership. And they do have a very old home that's had a lot of issues and a lot of stuff that they've had to fix. But him and I were chatting about it yesterday, and we were like, I think for me, and we were both agreeing with each other, it's that trying to simplify. How do we simplify? How do we just make our lives a little bit simpler? And yeah, the kids are at a demanding age. Their kids are a little bit younger than mine, so there's even a little bit more demanding, and a lot of driving, a lot of sports. It's a lot. James's schoolwork is getting harder because he's going into grade 8 in September. Like, these are things that you guys, some of you have already experienced, some of you haven't experienced yet. It's life, and there's a lot going on. There's a lot going on. All right, let's do community participation. I know the Italian tubular cast off, bind off you can do just with one needle. I have tried and tried and I just can't do it. So I always move my stitches onto 2 needles. It's just me. Yeah. I know, Eve. I know. What's that body part? I know. All right. I will see you guys on the other side. All right, community participation. I had to include these photos. Lisa, I hope that it's okay. I was going to message you, and then with everything you've got going on, I just thought I'm going to go ahead and do it, and I'm going to ask for forgiveness later. I loved these photos that Lisa posted this past week. I'm just going to move myself over here. I don't know if you guys know this, but I love birds. Love them. I read about birds. I look for birds everywhere I go. I would love to do the Great Year one year. Mike thinks that I'm crazy for wanting to do it. Maybe part of it, like maybe bits and pieces of it, maybe not the whole thing. I love birds. Anyways, and then Mike and I had this whole joke going the whole time we were in the UK, because there's a couple of birds that you guys in Europe and the UK call, we have the same birds here, but we have different names for them. Anyhow, I brought back a couple of paintings of birds because they were just beautiful, and I was able to get them off the street from street painters. I love birds. Anyways, Lisa, I love seeing your photos of birds when you go out on your property and take your photos and stuff. I'm always really, really inspired. The only birds that I don't like, I hate them. It's so bad because I'm Canadian and I really don't like them. I hate Canada geese. They're the only ones I don't like. I love all other birds. Yeah, and recently in Canada, they've started calling it the Canada goose. They've started calling it the cobra. Oh, I told you guys the other day in spin group. Can somebody help me out? The cobra something. The cobra duck, something like that. Anyways, I can't stand Canada geese. But anyways, these birds are beautiful. So thank you, Lisa. Year of Yarn. There's been quite a bit going on. You guys have been sharing a lot of your photos and whatnot of Year of Yarn, and it's been really, really inspiring. So please keep sharing. Your photos are so inspiring. This is from Kim. She's always had a fear of the cobra chicken. Thank you, Eve. I've always had a fear of color. I'm trying to embrace color more as part of my spinning. So I thought cabled and crepe yarns using my spinning advent calendar would help me understand how color would work with these types of yarns. I think it's just so inspiring what Kim was able to do. I think the blue one, is the blue one the crepe one, and the pink one down there, I think, or the multicolored one is the cable. She used all of this was Targhee. And then she did cabled yarns on the left and then crepe and opposing ply on the right. That's right. So these ones here on the right are the crepe and the opposing ply. Really, really beautiful spinning, Kim, and really, really inspiring. This is from Stacy. I love these colors. I had to share this. This is from the Bramble Ridge sample pack, and it was 3 colors. It's also an opposing ply yarn with tons of twists. And actually, it's interesting. Rebecca talked about this in the wool circle a little bit. You see how in her knit swatch, which is beautiful, I love these colors, you can see that the leg of the knit stitch on the one side is a little bit more pronounced. And we had talked about that a little bit in the wool circle and some of the reasons that happens. She said, I've never made socks. Not sure if this is what I actually want, but it is what I aimed for. That's some consolation. I find it somewhat ropey. And then of course she took it a step further and started knitting with it, which I think is wonderful. I think it would actually make really great socks, Stacey. It'll be interesting to see what you do. This is from Amanda. Beautiful spinning, Amanda. Finishing my crepe yarn. Such a difference between the finished on the left and the unfinished on the right. And you can see the difference. You can see how smooth the left-hand yarn is and how it just really settled into itself, as opposed to the one that's unfinished yet. Beautiful experiment there, Amanda, and beautiful spinning. This is from Nicole. I think these, I know Lisa used to call them cage yarns, but these bubble crepes are just so inspiring. When I have time and when I have energy, I would really like to play around with some of these techniques this summer, and I just haven't had a chance. And I'm hoping that I'll be able to spend some time on some of this stuff this summer. Second attempt at cables today, definitely an improvement, but my God, finding that pop is finicky. Then I tried Rick Rack and I love it. It's so fun and so fast. Really well done. So breed blends and color studies, you guys have been spinning up a storm, and Dion was working on hers this morning during spin group. And I just wanted to remind everybody that we do have a new Slack channel. I started it when we first started all of this back in January, but I'm not sure that everybody's aware that there is a Slack channel for our Breed Blends and Color Study, and it is Breed Blends Color Study. So have a look for that and you can see what people are making, because maybe if you're not quite as familiar with Slack and, you know, finding all the channels and whatnot, you just click the plus button by channels and it'll show you all the channels that are currently active. There's a lot of channels. Don't feel like you have to join all of them. Look for the ones that you think will work for you and that you want to be a part of. Hashtag general, which is the main channel that you come to when you first come into Slack. That is where everything that needs an announcement, I will post it there. You do not need to look anywhere else if you're looking for like announcements. Hashtag general is your best friend. This one is from Mary. This is the, oh my goodness, colorways, you guys. I said this to Spin Group this morning. I don't know why. I cannot keep these colorways straight. It's because I haven't started working with it yet. Diane was like, it's because you just aren't super, like you haven't jumped into it yet. Like, of course you don't have them off the tip of your tongue yet. And I was like, you know what? That's a really good point. Thank you for the grace. So this colorway is Deep Freeze. And Mary is spinning it straight from the braid in chunks with very little pre-drafting. And she's spinning this bobbin S. She'll do another 2Z for 3-ply for opposing ply 3-ply socks. Beautiful spinning, Mary. Yeah, I think you're right, Lisa. Bubble crepe is way nicer nickname than cage yarn. I do kind of like cage yarn though. I don't know, there's something about it I kind of like. This is from Kim. Beautiful spinning as well, Kim. I'm doing a 2-ply with the Fireside and Deep Freeze. Oh no, sorry, not Winter Morning. Yeah, sorry, Fireside and Winter Morning colors from the sample pack. Just loving how they're looking, and I plan to use Deep Freeze as a 3-ply as a crepe yarn, which is awesome. Rebecca did a crepe yarn sample, so and she talked about it on the Wool Circle, so definitely check that out, Kim, if you are a Wool Circle subscriber. This is from Esther. I love this skein. Really well done, you guys. Beautiful spinning. First skein done. I didn't want to think too much, so a thin 2-ply fractal it is. I found the blend lovely to spin and surprisingly had to keep my hands closer together than I thought. Yes, me too. Agreed. I think it's the BFL. Perhaps a small shawl. That would be beautiful, Esther. This is from Melon. I'm not going to read her whole thing, so if you want to read everything that she did, please press pause here and read through her post. And if you have access to the Ravelry group or the Slack channel, she posted there as well. I think she posted in the... No, I don't want to jinx it. I can't remember which one she posted in. I think it was the Slack channel. Anyhow, I included the photo that she had done of making the blend. So I think she combed everything together, and then she wasn't totally sure of the percentages that she ended up with, but in hindsight, she thinks her mohair was probably kid mohair, which might have been a bad choice given the length of the other fibers, because I think there was quite a discrepancy in length. But regardless, she got beautiful yarns, and she made shorty socks and really, really beautiful slippers. I think they're sort of more like a house sock, like a heavy slipper. Beautiful job, Malin, just amazing. I'm really proud of finishing a project like this using Deep Stash. Absolutely, beautiful. This is from Lauren. I love these socks, and I think she did, I know she did contrasting heels, toes, and cuffs to get her yardage to go a bit further. Beautiful job, Lauren. And actually, the nice thing about doing that for the cuffs is it might give you a little bit more bounce and sproing in the cuff and give you a little bit more of that elasticity that this yarn maybe doesn't have quite as much. So that works really well. I was thinking actually if I were to do socks with mine, which I'm not going to, but if I were, I would maybe think about holding some elastic nylon, like that beading nylon, you know, that's elastic, with the cuffs to kind of get it to really cinch in. It was just a passing thought that I had. And then this general makes and shares stuff that you guys are sharing. This is from Becca. This is linen singles, so flax. Freshly wound off the bobbin. Beautiful. She's working on her spinning certificate. Her and Rebecca had a chat on, was it November's Woolen Spinning Radio, I think? You can go back and find that episode. They talked about the spinning certificate and her experience that she's been having with that. And this is part of her spinning portfolio. This is from Megan. So much texture. Spinning this interesting blend, 50% Shetland, 25% Manx Lothian, 12.5% flax, and 12.5% silk. That is something that one could make at home using a drum carder. And yeah, it would be just so much fun to sort of see what you get. So whenever you add flax, especially if it's toe flax, which I don't know if this is or not in this particular blend, but if you have toe flax, it adds even more texture to your yarns, and it's just really, really fun. I played around with that back when I was recreating some commercial yarn a number of years ago. I want to say like 2017, 2018, maybe 2016. And oh, still to this day is some of my favorite yarn I've ever made. You just have to let go of the smooth and even and just embrace the different textures. Well said, Megan. This is from Stephanie. She's been playing around with a cotton rabbit hole and playing around with a cotton sampler from a local to me vendor, which included combed and carded cotton, seed cotton, and more. She also played around with blending it with wool and silk. Beautiful, Stephanie. Really well done. And thank you so much, you guys, for sharing everything that you do, for doing, for participating in the community, for helping out with everything that you do, for showing up as your best selves and being supportive of one another. I really appreciate it. I hope you guys have a really wonderful couple of weeks. Next week at 10 a.m. Pacific, we have the Wool Circle, and that will be the last time that the Wool Circle for the meantime is at 10 a.m. So it'll be moving to 12 noon, like I mentioned at the beginning of the show. So remember, next week is at 10 a.m. Pacific, and then the following week, the podcast will shift 2 hours forward to 12 noon. I'm actually also hoping that maybe that'll work for some of our friends that are in Asia and also down under for those time zones on that side of the world, because 12 noon, some of the participants in Spinning Staples who live in Australia, for example, are able to join, and the time zones kind of match up. So maybe it'll work for everyone. I know 12 noon Pacific is like the one time zone that hits all time zones around the world, that everybody can kind of make it work. So maybe, maybe, I don't know. Anyhow, I hope that you guys have a good couple of weeks, and I will keep working on my weft article and keep spinning up all of this stuff and keep posting about it in the Slack channel. And I hope that you guys are really enjoying your breed blends and color study yarns. I was wondering, do you guys, before we say goodbye, we've got a couple of minutes, do you want me to tell you what I'm planning on doing with mine? Is that something that would be interesting to you guys? I do have it ready to go. I'm just not letting myself start it until I'm done the spinning for the weft article. But if you guys want to know what I am planning, I'm more than happy to share quickly before we say goodbye. Okay, so that was kind of like asking a rhetorical question, but like, you guys are so awesome. So what I did, I got a half pack. So I originally had a full pack, and I was looking at it, and with everything that's been going on in our family and everything that I've been dealing with, I said to Megan of Bramble Ridge, I was like, you know what? I know that this is just not going to happen. Can I swap with you and get a half pack, and then somebody else can have my full pack? So somebody out there has the other half of my pack. So what I did one day was I took my half pack, I unbraided everything, and I literally took everything and I split them in half. So I took all of my the 50 grams and I divide them all into 25 grams. And so I have 2 bundles of every colorway. So I've, 2 of my Fireside, 2 of my, this one's Deep Morning, or is this Deep Freeze? Oh my gosh. Winter Morning. So I have 2 Winter Mornings, 2 Firesides, and 2 Deep Freeze. So what I'm going to do, this is the plan aujourd'hui, is I'm going to spin each of them to a bobbin, and then they'll each get plied with another friend. So Winter Morning will get plied with Fireside and Deep Freeze, and then Fireside and Deep Freeze will get plied together. So everybody will have a friend, and there will be no repeats, and everybody will get plied with somebody else. So it'll be 3 combo spun yarns, and from there, I am going to, and I'm going to spin it so that it'll be a 2-ply. And then from there, I'm going to siphon off enough yardage. So I'm going to figure out what my set will be. I'm probably going to do this on my Louette Jane because it's my table loom. It'll be out for my weft article anyways. And what I'm going to do is a color block shawl, kind of scarf shawl thing. So it'll be a little bit wider. And it'll have 3 color blocks across it. So it'll be like one combo, the other combo, and the other combo. And so each yarn will be 1/3 of the warp. And then each yarn will be 1/3 of the weft. Does that make sense? So it's just gonna be color blocks. And I thought I can get my head around that. When I wove with our Massom study, it was so fuzzy and so halo-y that it was actually really hard to get really clean sheds. And so I actually am thinking really seriously about weaving off the warp that's on my Louette spring so that I can have that big countermarch shed. And so that if that's the case, then I just need to finish the weft article, finish that weaving, and then weave off that last scarf that's on that loom right now that I did for my sister-in-law, but I never wove off the other one. So I need to weave off the other one, and then I would put this on my Louette spring. And it's just gonna be a big color block shawl. And so depending on my yardage and depending on what I have, because I would like to finish it off with very little leftovers, I'll figure out what I need for, like if I have this wide of a warp, how much weft would I need if it was a 50-50 balanced weave? Do I want to do a twill? So it'll be a slightly tighter set. But it would give me some, like I could even do rose path where you get sort of the, you know, and keep it really super simple where the focus is on the color block. I'm actually leaning towards just doing a plain weave, but I also, you know, plain weave would work, a 2-2 twill would work, just a simple 2-2 twill, like nothing fancy, and just, yeah, color blocking it. And so I'll have, make the warp big enough that I can also use up the weft. And then when I run out of that weft yarn, the next third is the second one, and then the last one. And I'm not sure how I'm going to, like each yarn will have that common, that singles, like deep freeze is gonna, that blue is gonna run through the entire yarn, right? It doesn't really change per se. So those 2 yarns that have deep freeze will probably go on the outside of the stole, and then Fireside and Winter Morning will be in the middle. And then same for the color block of the shawl. And I think what will actually end up happening is when, to the untrained eye, when you just see it, you won't really notice that there's much difference. You won't see like actual blocks, I don't think. I think what'll end up happening is it'll kind of all blend together a little bit. And that's kind of fun. So I don't think it'll actually, I don't think the plaid will really come through. I don't think. I think it'll be very subtle. And I think that would be perfect because I'm not overthinking it and I'm just really enjoying working with the yarns. That's my plan. So that is my plan. That's what I'm thinking about at the moment. So yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh, Nicole, copy away. Absolutely. She's like, sorry, Rachel. I'm like, no apologies. Just do it. Just do it. I am so, what would be really cool about that, Nicole, actually, is if you do copy me, it'll be really fun to see how different they are because they won't come out the same. They'll come out totally different. So that would be really fun to see. But yeah, copy away. I copy people all the time. Yeah, that's part of the fun of creating. So, all right, I think that's it for today. Thank you guys for such a wonderful show. We'll be back here same time, same place next week, 10 a.m. Pacific for the Wool Circle. So please come and join us. Jump in. There is a 7-day trial for those who want to come and just see what it's all about and try the Wool Circle. You are more than welcome to join us. And I hope to see you as part of our community. You are all welcome here, and you also help to keep the lights on. So thank you so much for your support. It makes a big difference to me and Rebecca to be able to do what we do and continue to build this community and to continue to, create the content and release it out to you guys and do all the things that we do. Wool and Spinning Radio and the podcast and the Wool Circle and all the teaching content and all of the stuff that we do. So thank you so much for supporting us. I really appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. Really quickly, because I just want to say thank you to those who messaged me over the last couple of weeks. Your kindness is really appreciated. Thank you so much. I am doing very well. And I just wanted to say thank you to those who did reach out and say, I hope you're okay and I hope you're doing well. I am doing really well. I feel very hopeful. I feel very, very positive. I feel really good. And I am kind of in a bit of a limbo right now, waiting for the next step with things. So it's kind of been nice not having to think about it every 5 minutes and not constantly having to field phone calls. It's been a really nice mental break. So yeah, things are going really well over here. So thank you to those who asked. And I also appreciate you guys being really respectful the messages that I received were really super, super kind, but also acknowledged my need for space and my need for privacy. And I really, really appreciated that. So thank you. I didn't expect anything less, but you guys never fail to amaze me. So thank you so much. I hope you have a wonderful couple weeks. I've said that several times now. So please do have a wonderful couple of weeks, and we will see you back here next Tuesday for the Wool Circle. Bye, everyone.